Hey, Minorcan Navy, we are now going to meet Bob Brooksher. He was one of the gentlemen who was on the floating dock when the tragedy occurred on Sapelo Island. Well, hey, Minorcan Navy, you guys know that we've been covering the dock collapse up in Sapelo. I've got a special guest here that's joining us by Zoom today. This is Bob Brooksher. He is one of the guys that made a difference on this day. And Bob, you guys were there, and from what you told me, you were on the ferry preparing to disembark. You had made the trip over. You guys had would you say, a camping trip or something scheduled? You had a group.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, Andy. I appreciate the work you've done. Yeah, we had a group of nine of us. We're all from most of us were from North Georgia. One, my niece is from Jacksonville and met us there. Anyway, yeah, we were going up to Cabrera Island as a uh, run by the state. A camp. It's a group campsite up on kind of north of Hog Hammock on Sapelo Island, a little ways up, right on the near the beach. And so, yeah, we were going there for 5 days, and we had taken the ferry from Meridian that afternoon, a 2:45 p.m. ferry, and arrived at the ferry boat docked at the what I call the floating platform dock out there that has the gangway connected to the mainland. That's the gangway that did collapse. So we got there, and there were a few other folks on the boat coming over to Sapelo, and they disembarked. And we had a lot of camping gear because we were staying for 5 days. So we unloaded all that onto the floating platform as we were instructed, and then we just patiently waited as once they started allowing the huge crowds that were being bussed from the cultural day celebration that was going on that day. So this was getting into the afternoon, and that festival was kind of winding down. A lot of people were coming back to go back to the mainland, and because they were running multiple ferries that day because of that huge event. I think I heard there were like 700 people there. And so we were just on the platform patiently waiting when the disaster happened.
So you're outside. You're on the floating dock, the platform that's there, um, waiting. You got your gear there, and give us an idea of did you have the opportunity to look back at the gangway?
I was uh, I was probably 5 feet from the gangway. It came across, and then of course got the railing around the dock, and I was just a few feet to the side, right there up front, just patiently waiting for everyone to come across. So I was looking directly at all the people when I saw the collapse happen, and it was right there in front of me.
I'm not going to ask you for a head count because I'm sure you didn't have time to that. But just in looking at that gangway, a sense of how many people was it? Halfway loaded with people, a quarter of the way loaded with people as they were they're in queue to get on. In front, what I've heard from other people is normally there's a left hand and a right hand side of the gangway, but at this point both sides were being utilized, from what I've understood from other people, for the loading onto the ferry. Can you give us an idea, like maybe how many people were on that gangway, as far as whether they were half the gangway or less, or what would you think there?
From from my uh, recollection, of course, when you're experiencing, you're not expecting something, so you're not expecting something to go wrong, so you're not really recording everything in your head. But from my recollection, I thought that it was pretty much full both sides,
Oh,
and I think that that's the image I have. because I'd been watching and I hadn't really been thinking about that until the collapse happened. And then my mind says, there is a lot of weight out there. I says that thing. So I'm pretty sure that it was full both sides. That because there were hundreds of people over on the mainland side who had gotten out of buses and kind of a crowd over there, uh, uh, coming on to the boat. And there were probably, and I didn't count, but I'm guessing there might have been 25 people who had already made it across on the gangway before it happened. But it was a lot of elderly people, some of them carrying bags, and they were kind of crowded on there, so they were moving slow. And that's when I just saw the kind of in the middle. It was kind of a slow motion at first. It just V'd down all the way down into the water, and so I immediately knew this is super serious, but I didn't know that it was going to be the disaster that it was, because I thought, hey, both sides were connected, and within about 5 seconds, the side right next to me just dropped. So
It kind of
everyone,
slid off that.
it I didn't see whether it was a slide, or all I saw was just a straight drop. So whether it broke, whether it slid off, I really don't know. What I experienced, because I was looking out to the middle, and all of a sudden just boom right next to me. And that one went fast. I mean, those people, once it dropped, and of course it had a lot of weight on it, so it dropped very fast. And so pretty much all the people from right where I was, and I don't know how far out, but probably halfway or more, all those people just went straight into deep water with nothing to really hold on to, I guess. So,
Well, all right. The docks collapse now. People are in the water. How long does it take you guys who were there out there to realize big problem? I got to react. What was that time? I mean, and then the process of
well,
that. How did that go?
yeah, and I wasn't aware of where at that time. I didn't even know my brother he was on the other side. He had gone across to already, but 8 of us were still on the platform, and we were scattered. I wasn't totally aware of where my teammates were, but we were all kind of close in there. And for me, even that 5 second or whatever period, when I saw the middle collapse, I was already like knowing that, hey, we've I thought we were going to do a rescue out there for those people. But so I was like, when that sucker went down, I think I was down in the water, but not swimming.
Bob,
I
you went in the
jumped,
water.
I jumped over, and the railing, of course, the bars come all the way down to the floor. So what I did, because there was a pod of people, now I did see some that were already in the deep water, and so the options were either dive in, which our group member Chris O'Cleary did and pulled in a lot of people. It was either dive in into the deep water to try to pull people in. But I saw people right underneath me. There was a little pod of people, and they were the ones that were closest to the floating platform. And so they were still right up against kind of the seawall, but there was really nothing to hang on to. And so I just instantly jumped down and was able to get on the down current side of them, because that's where I was. Kind of luckily, if I'd have gone on the up current side, I don't know if I could have
Right.
done anything.
Right.
But I was able to hold onto the rail as far down as I could get and hold that little pod of people and there was two women. I found out later it was a woman and her aunt. The aunt was 80 years old, and the niece was 68 years old. And so I was right with the 68-year-old woman in the little pod of people. And so I was able to just hold them and hold her up above the water. And I think they were kind of holding on to each other. And the current was pulling me very hard just
I
to try
can't
to hold on.
imagine, Bob, you being from video I saw of the current running, which to me looked like it was running between maybe 4 and 5 knots. It was just ripping out
It
of there.
was, yeah, it
Trying to
was,
hold yourself, let alone
yeah,
holding other people.
yeah. And there was a baby. It was once I was down. Yeah, it was really hard to see how many within our group, but I think there was a mother because there was a baby and I was trying to get the baby. I kept asking, but I think the mother was held on to the baby, and as I understand, she ended up floating down, but they did get her. So, but she had a little daughter, and so we were able to get it was about a 6-year-old girl, maybe. I think I heard that. That's what I was estimating her age, 5 or 6, and we were able to lift her up. People were hanging over the railing, the floor of that platform, and they were able to lift her up. And so eventually, and it seemed like eternity, because they were having a hard time finding ropes and things. Someone did get a life jacket, orange life jacket, down to me, and I couldn't get that on to the woman beside me, but I was able to get it underneath her and to help a little bit,
Right.
just to float her, and then and eventually they did get down ropes. First it was a little bitty, like a half inch, and it did help because I was able to get the woman to hold that, and it took a little pressure off. Then they came down with a big nautical, about a 1 inch, that was easier to grab.
Made
And
things a lot easier.
someone had put a loop on it up top. And by then also there was another woman, and short-haired white woman. And I didn't know where she came from. I didn't know whether she had been on the gangway but I learned later, my wife, who was helping up on top, said that she had come over down into the water. So she was a big help. So that, to get those ropes under the two women, I think she was there to help get the little girl up too. That's a kind of a foggy memory to me on
I can
exactly.
imagine there's a lot going on at one time to try to process.
Yeah. So that was my little window of awareness was, that little 8-foot circle. I didn't know anything else going on with other people because I just couldn't see. And another thing is we were really kind of hidden down there because it's a vertical, and so unless you even someone leaning over the rails, there's big pillars on each side. You couldn't see us. We were really tucked right up against the bottom, and it was dark down there. The sun wasn't hitting it, and so I don't know if any videos even picked it up because I think everybody was focusing on the bigger uh, uh, tragedy was all these people in deep water floating, and that's where the majority of attention went,
Sure.
which it should, because there were a
A
lot
lot of
of
people there. Yeah, sure.
floating with the current down. And so so we were kind of stuck up under there, kind of hidden, except for the few people right above us that knew we were there. And they did a great job and that included my niece, Barbie, and my wife, and a lot of other people that helped. And a lot of them I don't even know because I couldn't see them. But I know there was a lot of people really working up there trying to get ropes down. And eventually, my wife said there might have been 6 or 8 people pulling those ropes when we finally were able to get those loops
Sure.
underneath the two large women. And one of them I understand was hospitalized and she's got some injuries. So I hope she's doing good. But anyway, I'm just glad that, it's a very traumatic event for so many
Oh,
people.
absolutely, and for you guys as well. Now, one thing I've tried to explain to people, and maybe you can do this better because you were in the water. The vertical wall, the floating dock, the floating platform that you're referring to,
Yeah,
it's pretty high. I mean, it's a pretty tall, tall system there.
yeah.
What was it, 4 or 5 feet probably back up to the top?
To the floor of it, to the floor, I'd guess it might have maybe a little more than that, probably.
Yeah,
And
it's
one thing I noticed when we were in the water, there is a wood, it looked like a 4x6 or 4 by or something that's a band, and so it was, a 3 or 4 inch wide, kind of, which made a ledge right over the water's edge. And but that was just slick with algae. You could, you just couldn't. There wasn't a finger hold to grab to hold on to that. Uh, but now when I went back on Wednesday when we were going back, and of course that dock was totally empty because it's not in use now. The gangway is, they've taken it for analysis and all. But I was looking across, and then I could see that wood, and it was dry that day. So and it looked like, hey, probably somebody could. It looked like it was kind of like clean and dry. And I was saying, well, maybe somebody could have. I don't know if someone could have held on even to the top of it or not. But the day that I was there, it was wet, and I don't know if it's because the weight had pushed that down enough to,
yeah,
because there had been a
a
lot
lot
of
of
weight
people, a
going
lot of
across
people on
there
it.
all
Sure.
day. I don't know that, but I just know when I was there, it made it so there was just almost nothing to hang on to.
Well, Bob,
And so that's why that I had that rail. That was the only
that's the
thing
only thing
that,
you could. That's the only thing you had a
yeah,
handhold on.
yeah. And it was way, above me. I was way down and just able to get my arm under uh, the niece, the 68-year-old woman. So,
Well, let me ask you this, and of course, you wouldn't have known about the Sapelo Island side, but coming from the mainland, it's pretty much the kind of the same setup there. There's a little bit of difference, but it's kind of the same setup.
yeah.
Did
Oh,
you,
yeah.
any signage or capacity placards or anything that you recall seeing? Um,
I don't personally remember, so I really I couldn't say for definite yes or no on that. I don't remember uh that being the case.
and I'm
So
guessing you guys there was no swim ladder or anything like that that would have been around that floating dock that could have helped with the process of trying to get people up.
yeah, I didn't see that around where I was. Now whether on another side there might have been, I'm not sure. So and Andy, I'm seeing that this is not my computer, and it says low battery. I hope we don't go dark here, but
We'll get
I'll see if I can plug it. I bet I can, and that'll cure that. I think that might do it. Yeah, I'm good. Okay, scared me. Yeah. So um, yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't see anything that would make it easy to get out there. So, and that was one of the problems. And plus, the current, of course, made
sure
it worse. If
made
it
it
was
much
slack
worse.
water, it'd be one thing, but that current is really trying to pull you down current. Yeah,
Well, Bob, let me tell you this: if nobody else has told you yet, thank you for your efforts and for the
well,
coordination of your group for being there.
yeah. Well, I
Without
appreciate it.
without you guys have been
I
there,
think there were just a lot of people who just jumped to action on the mainland side, even though, until I finally came up, and on our side it wasn't over. Once we had gotten, there were two other women that, they were, I think they might have even swam over, but they were a little further down, and that was the last thing. And I didn't help as much with that, but we had to rope them up too. I did help with the second one. That was right after we had gotten the other ladies that were more critical. These were younger women, and they seemed to be in good spirits, and pulled them up too. They were the last ones up. So I'm thinking we maybe had, with the 6-year-old, I think maybe 5 that came up, and there might have been some others that I didn't see that weren't right there, but those last 2, they seemed to be in pretty good shape. They were younger women, and they seemed to be comfortable with the water, unlike the other victims that had to go. And so we had to get them into a smaller boat. I don't know if it was a private boat or an agency boat, but they went to the hospital, and my niece Barbie went with them because they really needed some support. And I think both of them were hospitalized, and the older 80-year-old was in a little worse condition. And I hope they're both doing good. I would like to reach out. I do have the names, and I would like to reach out. It might help with their healing because they don't know who I am, and we did kind of make a connection down there because
Right.
we were.
Well, hopefully that'll happen here through this and through YouTube.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys can connect. That would be awesome. Bob, there's no doubt that people are alive today because of the
Yeah.
actions you
Well,
guys took.
yeah. Well, it was awful tragedy. I just really feel for the people, the families, loved ones, and it was I hope positive change can come out of this because that is a special community there on Sapelo Island, and all
No
the
doubt.
descendants
No
and
doubt.
all the people who came over, and I really want to see that community taken care of, and their needs met, and for them to feel safe because that cultural day was a special celebration of gathering a lot of the relatives and who came back to Sapelo, and I'm just hoping that they will feel safe and that they will want to come back, and there will I know there's going to be a lot of investigations and what went wrong and how that this can be resolved. I hope.
Let's
So
get it corrected so that we never have to have something like this happen again.
yes.
Bob, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your perspective
Yeah.
in explaining what happened there. It's very powerful to watch. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
You've
you.
done.
And thank you for doing what you're doing, Andy. I think that the more pieces of the puzzle to get an understanding of this whole event, and it might open into a bigger thing with just the history and what's going on with Sapelo and Geechee people. I think that's important that we have all the knowledge we can about that, and I appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks again, and you be safe out there.
You too. Take care.